so those are similar triangles. Now they go from there onto special right triangles. The 45, 45, 90 triangle, and they also do the 30, 60, 90. And the reason these are special is because they have specific formulas you can use to find the length of a side. If you have one side, you can use a formula to find the other sides. So this part in the middle section here, you'll want to have in your notes. Okay. With a 45, 45, 90, you'll want to label it as that. The legs are the same length, so the legs are the parts touching the right angle. And the hypotenuse you can find by multiplying by the square root of 2, multiplying a leg. If you want to go the other way, if they give you the hypotenuse, you can find it by taking the leg is the hypotenuse divided by the square root of 2. So this information here you will want to have in your notes, so that when you come up to a 45, 45, 90 question, you have those formulas. Okay, so does this look familiar? Okay, so let's try to solve using these formulas. Let's do the one on the left first. It says find the value of x, write your answer in simplest radical form. And that just means don't use decimals, use the square root symbol in your answer if it's still there. So what you want to do is you go, okay, I know this is a 45, 45, 90 because I have a 90-degree angle and the other two are the same measure, which they would have to be 45 and 45. So I use my formulas. I do not have the hypotenuse. I do have the leg. So then I go to my formulas and I say, okay, how do I get the hypotenuse? Well, the hypotenuse is the leg times the square root of 2. So my x is going to be whatever the leg is times the square root of 2. Okay, my leg was 10 root 2. That's my leg part. And I'm going to multiply that by the square root of 2. Now you can do that on a calculator if the simplifying isn't as fun, but make sure you do 10. Make sure you put both root 2's in there. 10 times the square root of 2 times the square root of 2. The other way you can do it is you can multiply square roots. That would give you 10 times the square root of 4, because 2 times 2 is 4. The square root of 4 is 2, and that gives me 20. But again, you could also do that just using your calculator. You can multiply 10 root 2 times root 2, and it'll give you the same answer. Okay. Let's come over here to this one. It says find the value of x. Again, put it in simplest radical form. Again, we have a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So we know that we need to use one of these formulas here. So then we look at, okay, what is x? What are we trying to find? And this time, notice it's a leg. The legs are attached to the right angle. The hypotenuse is across from the right angle. So I'm trying to find one of the legs. And we look and it says, well, the leg is the hypotenuse divided by the square root of 2. Okay, so if I substitute what I know, my leg is x, okay, is the hypotenuse of 12 divided by the square root of 2. So far so good. We have a few more steps on that one, but I just want to check before we move on. Okay, so we just use the formula to fill this in. Now they bring in algebra, and it's some algebra you might not remember as well, but you cannot have a square root in the bottom of a fraction and consider it simplified. So what we have to do is simplify this, because they didn't want it in decimal form. They wanted it in simplest radical form. Okay, so simplest radical form, you cannot have a square root in the bottom. To get rid of that, what you do is you multiply by that square root. Okay, so it was square root 2, we multiply by square root 2. Only whatever you do to the bottom of a fraction, you have to do the same to the top, so that you're keeping the same fraction. Okay, so then we get 12 times the square root of 2 over the square root of 2 times the square root of 2, again, is the square root of 4. We can keep simplifying here. That gives us 12 times the square root of 2 over the square root of 4, which is 2. Okay, and finally, 2 goes into 12, so we can reduce this. 2 goes into 12 6 times, and so we end up with the answer 6 times the square root of 2. Okay, and if you have questions on any of those steps, because this is something you learned or were supposed to learn back in algebra, but it's usually gone over very quickly, and a lot of people have trouble with it. Okay, but again, the problem was that we had a square root in the bottom of our fraction. So to get rid of it, you multiply by whatever that square root was. You have to do the same to the top of the fraction, and then you just simplify that. Okay, well, let's do an example like the ones they have on your assignment. Okay, so here's one like one they might have on your assignment. It says find the value of x, write your answer in simplest radical form. So again, the first thing I notice is I have a right triangle and the other two angles are congruent, which means they have to be 45-degree angles. So that makes me go to my notes and say, okay, I have a 45, 45, 90, and I'm trying to find the, what are we trying to find? A leg or a hypotenuse? What's my x? Good, it's the hypotenuse, and you know that because the hypotenuse is always across from the right angle. So we're trying to find the hypotenuse. So in my notes I would go, okay, in a 45, 45, 90 triangle, how do you find the hypotenuse? And it says you take the leg times the square root of 2. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take our leg, our one leg that we know is 30, times the square root of 2, and that will give us our hypotenuse. Now this is in simplest radical form. I don't have to do anything else to it. If they wanted decimal form, I would go ahead and multiply those, but they want radical form, which means leave your square roots there. I don't have to do any simplifying because it wasn't a fraction and there was nothing in the bottom of the fraction. Okay, yeah, if they wanted me to multiply it out, I could. But anytime it says simplified radical form, yeah, I would just leave it as 30 square root 2. All right, let's take a look at this question. Okay, so again, we're just kind of going back through the two possibilities here. So this one again has a 45, 45, 90 triangle. I'm supposed to find this x. Is my x this time a leg or a hypotenuse? Good, it's a leg. So here's my hypotenuse. Here is across from the right angle. This is a leg. So I look in my notes for 45, 45, 90, and it says that the leg is equal to your hypotenuse divided by the square root of 2. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the leg, which was 24, the hypotenuse, which was 24, and divide by the square root of 2. It wants it in simplest radical form. Can I leave my answer 24 divided by square root of 2? Is that okay? Nope, it's not, unfortunately. So we simplify that. Again, to simplify, our problem was that the root was in the bottom. To simplify, we multiply by exactly that square root. And whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do the same to the top. Then you simplify. So on top, I get 24 root 2. And on the bottom, root 2 times root 2 is root 4. And after you've done this a couple of times, you may take a few shortcuts. Okay. I have to keep going because I can find the square root of 4. The square root of 4 is 2. So now I have 24 root 2 over 2. And then 2 goes into 24 12 times. So I end up with the answer 12 root 2. Okay, so that's 45, 45, 90 triangles. And they do have a second type, which are the 30, 60, 90s. Okay, so I know we've been here a while. I'm going to keep going. Do you want me to keep going and explain the rest of it to you? I don't want you to think you have to stay, but if you